You're listening to Marketing Mavens on Good Morning Delhi with Sarthak.
And what a lovely thing to do. Listen to Marketing Mavens, listen to a few ideas that might trigger thought. And triggering thought is such a lovely thing, no? The first step. And of course, to nourish your inner pseudo, we're going to give you the back channels, the workings of the behind the scenes of those iconic ads that you've seen. And for that, of course, every week we get a Marketing Maven. And today, of course, it's an honor to welcome Abhishek Chaswal into our studio. Abhishek, of course, senior creative consultant at McCann, and of course, one of the veterans on the scene. Abhishek, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Sarthak.
It's wonderful to have you here and to pick your brains a little, which I'm told is becoming an increasingly irritating phrase. But it's always nice to irritate someone so that they listen. No, so Abhishek, you have an idea. You're actually going to sort of through this hour trace the progression of how ads are treated, right?
Yes, Sarthak.
And we're going to start with Bhool Na Jana ECE Bulb Lana.
Yeah.
Please.
So I would like to, earlier in the 90s or let's say 80s, advertising job was not that difficult. It was difficult, but we had to, crack one thing, one phrase or one thing that that triggers or the message that we want to say, like bhool na jana isi bulb lana, bhool na jana isi bulb lana. You repeat that 15 times, you're done. Or that dhara kid who left his home because he wanted to have jalebi. So then that was enough, but now it is the time when you have to do the GPS tour of that boy. You have to give the jalebi recipes. You have to do Insta reels on, what can be done with that jalebi.
For sure.
That is how, in a nutshell, that is the change that has happened now.
Also, I think, Abhishek, we were all taught in Advertising 101 about the unity of information, no? I mean, you had to have that one message that needed to get across to cut the clutter. But right now, clutter is the thing that cuts the unity now. It's actually completely turned on its head, hasn't it?
Yeah. There was a time of unique selling proposition, but now these are, I would say, this is a unique selling package that we do. Because there are different triggers for different people. So there are different mediums. People consume different mediums differently. So they need to be given a different kind of message at that medium.
So what is the brainstorming process like right now?
See, we basically go back to the basics only when cracking a stimulus, because it is all about what is being said and what is the response that you're seeking. So those rules are fundamentally the same.
Right.
It's the way it is disseminated now. Information is passed on or discovered, as they say in the internet. So how are people discovering your communication, or how are you reaching out to them? Is it through Twitter? Is it through Insta Reels? Is it through, because there are multiple screens now, and the phone in anybody's hand is a mothership.
But you were talking about a cusp period between the unity of communication and the diversity of messaging. So
yes, Sarthak. Say in the year 2008, 2009, Facebook was new to India, YouTube was new to India. We were still this buzzword was viral. Everybody wanted to go viral.
Yes.
So at that time, there were some things that were, let us say, innocent experiments that were happening that have needed very much, to shape the things the shape of the things to come was showing, So I'll just give you an example. Make My Trip was a client, and they said that we want to promote weekend travel culture, which and so initially, the logical thinking was to make beautiful visuals of Goa or Kerala and just say, Goa trip, 2-day trip at 499 and you're done.
Right.
But we felt, that somewhere something more can be done. And with these new media tools, that we were seeing, the creative department at Euro RSCG, it was called then, that agency, it was very restless. So we thought that, we can do something more. So what we did was that it was the year of recession. And in 2009, we felt that, anybody who cannot ask for a weekend break is basically exploited at office.
Okay.
So why doesn't Make My Trip can do a campaign against this official atyachar. So there was that Dev D song also, emotional atyachar was also hot at that time.
Right.
So we were in a way, unknowingly, we were learning the way communication is going to be designed in the future.
Right.
You keep something from topical, you see the narrative. What is the narrative of recession? People are generally feeling exploited. So what better time to tell them that go out, take a break, clear your mind. And we did that in a protest kind of an form, So
Right.
Make My Trip Against Official Atyachar, that campaign was done.
Oh, yeah.
It had video, it had radio, it had posters, it had activation. We created an office and asked people to break it after they won a video game. So they were like 10-15 things that we did on that basic idea, and it gave us that the shape of things to come.
For sure.
Was there.
Absolutely. Now, of course, those steps have actually become giant leaps.
Yeah.
And you were talking about AR as well, which we've recently done. You want to tell us about that, Abhishek?
Yeah. So there is this beautiful campaign. It broke last year, I think. It was done by Vice Media.
Okay.
So whenever you go to a museum, you see there is a tour. And nowadays the tours are mobile. So you scan the artifact or you scan a painting, and on your mobile you get to know the history about it, or stuff like that. So what Vice Media did was, that a lot of those stories are one-sided only. They are from the, let us say, in a British museum, all the stories of those artifacts are from the point of view of the
Victor. The victor's
from
point
the
of view. That's
victor's
what it's
point of
called,
view.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I love the way that you're hesitating in saying
Yes.
victor's point of view, because it is not the politically correct thing to say. But that's what it is.
Yes.
History is written from the victor's point of view.
Correct.
Yeah. And that plays a huge part in what this is about.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a new kind of a tour was made, and it was called the Unfilter the History. So that was the message.
Okay.
And then when you point or you scan at a particular artifact, it told the story from the
Loser's point of
from
view.
the oppressor's point of view.
From the oppressed point of
From
view.
the oppressed point of view.
That's a good word, actually. So the oppressor's point of view, instead of that, it's the oppressed's point of view.
Oppressed
Sure.
point of view, and it told about that how this particular diamond was taken, or that particular statue was taken, and stuff like that. And it was a guerrilla thing, So
Of course.
once you give people power, they will use it. They will, and the British Museum didn't have any idea, till the time it came out in the news that something like this is happening. So those are the kind of revolutionary ideas that
And what a
advertising is.
wonderful example of guerrilla marketing, which is actually one of the big things that a lot of people do, especially with the graffiti art that they do. I mean,
Correct.
the likes of Banksy, who of course does not do commerce, but
Yeah.
does his own marketing with his guerrilla marketing.
Yes.
Absolutely. And unfiltering history. That's the Vice Media campaign. You want to check it out. It's actually it's insane. No management would agree to it, but the way they did it was absolutely fabulous. But there was another social media, social cause advertising that
Yes.
you had. Yeah.
Another thing, this was done by McCann last year. It won a lot of awards, and it's a very beautiful, simple idea.
Including the Golden Lion, right?
Yeah,
At
including the Creative Commerce Gold for in Cannes, which is a new category, and it is a very new kind of an idea and very simple idea. So one is like an AR or technology, and those things are you're using, but the same concepts, even without technology, have become, we are getting new kind of advertising now. So in India, outside the metros, outside the women are still not financially dependent. A lot of women don't have bank accounts also. So Ujjivan Small Finance Bank, what they did was, they were thinking that what is the time when a woman is getting out of her father's home, or her home, her first home. That's at the time of her marriage, and that's where that somebody needs to tell her that you're getting married, you're moving out of your childhood home. Now you should be on your feet, or you should have some kind of financial independence. So on every marriage, in India, a shagun ka lifafa is given to the bride.
Yeah.
And that shagun ka lifafa already has a 1 rupee coin in it. All Ujjivan Small Finance and the creative people at McCann did was print the bank opening form in the inside of the envelope. So they printed those envelopes. First they sold those envelopes to the envelope sellers,
right,
so that consumers can go there and buy this special shagun ka lifafa with the form inside it and gift it to the woman they want to, so these are the kind of the new ways of dissemination of information. That is what we are seeing,
Abhishek, and it hasn't ended. There's still some very interesting things to talk about. What are we talking about now, Abhishek?
I would like to share, two campaigns with you. One was, again, this is the age of measurable experiments, like I like to call it. So they are brave experiments, but they're still guarded. But anyway, so Wildstone is a client. Wildstone. We were thinking, that every time a deodorant or a fragrance, something like this has to be marketed, we go to a celebrity, and we that is the conventional marketing playbook.
Of course.
So while we can't leave this, because that is how the category is operating, but what can we do, which can engage people in a different way and catch their imagination?
Right.
So we felt that there is no dearth of great men in India. A lot of times we see their statues on every nook and corner, and a lot of times their statues are not clean. So Wildstone felt that what better social cause can a men's grooming brand take?
Yeah.
And they took that lateral leap, and they did a campaign called Statue Grooming by Wildstone last year. So this was done as a pilot to how can we engage people, how can we still talk about men's grooming and the greatness, because great men deserve a great bath, or great men deserve to look great too.
Cleansing, so to speak. Yes, absolutely.
So those experiments are happening. So there is another campaign. This is it's called Eat a Swede. So
as in Swede, as in the Swedish guy. So Swede. Yeah, eat a Swede.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was about this was I'll try to tell it like a consumer would have seen it. So out came a documentary about how a Swedish scientist has made it really easy to grow human meat, which is edible. And there was an entire documentary about it. There is a serious looking scientist, and there is they even took somebody like a very big
Swedish actor,
Swedish actor, and they said ke iska meat hai jo hum bana rahe hain, and that is what you will get to eat and all that. Later it turned out that it was a mock documentary, it was a mockumentary, and it was all done for fun and in a fun way to communicate eat a Swede, which means that eat Swedish products, eat Swedish food, because the client was the food conglomerates of Sweden. So this was a very this why am I mentioning this? Because in the 80s we were told bhool na jana isi bulb lana, just tell what is to be told straight
out. Yeah,
this is a very new way to throw something in the communication cyberspace or something, and let people discover it, and then they get to know the real meaning behind it. So it's definitely a very brave experiment, and
that's
stuff like that has started happening basically.
From the power of repetition, where everyone was told logo bada karo, or kam se kam 15 times at least you have to repeat the tagline, to eat a sweet where the Swedish food conglomerate wanted to underline indigenous food consumption through a mockumentary that actually you were telling me that the mockumentary had actually won an award as a mockumentary as well.
Yes.
Called Eat a Sweet. So it is about challenging the intelligence of the consumer as well, and
it's all about getting into talkability. If we can get, how can we get into a talkability after dinner gossip
conversation?
I want to be an after dinner gossip. How can I be
that? So many kinds of ideas, but the power of the idea is what we thought we'd underline on this edition of Marketing Mavens. I hope the recipe that we served makes for a good dish for you to chew on this evening, if you think about this, which will of course be a privilege. What it has been, of course, is a privilege having you in the studio, Abhishek. This was just so mind-bending and thought-provoking. This has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you ever so much for your time.
Thank you, Sarthak. It's always a pleasure.
That's, of course, Abhishek Chaswal, the senior creative consultant at McCann. And those ideas, man. Oh, if they trigger original thought, we'd be so happy. We'd be also happy if you stay with us, because after this break is great music. Trust me on this.